Winter Hill, the Pennines. The kind of view which you get all over South Lancs, and the kind of view which lifts the heart even on a really desperate day in November. Beside Winter Hill is the road to Preston. Yes, it's a bewildering place, this. It really is the north end of Preston. Must have been just about in the countryside when it was first put up. And more than anywhere else I know of football grounds, you get this astonishing feeling of emptiness when the crowds aren't here. The vast car park, the wide open spaces beyond which, ironically, are a public park completely full of football pitches. There isn't even a football pub anywhere near here, which I would think would make Preston unique. The only thing really that has scale here, the floodlights. And that's odd for Preston, because the one thing about the centre of Preston is that it has enormous scale. This is a multi-storey car park with a difference. If you think that concrete exposed always has to be mean and messy, then look at the grand sweep of this strength and also the elegance. It's a splendid job. And this truly great building, which it is for me, is marred only, it wasn't the architect's fault, by the underpasses. It happens so often. They're the usual white-tiled, rather claustrophobic, narrow little passages. And they are also, legally, the only way you can get here. There's a biggish notice just across the forecourt there, saying that anyone who comes in this way, that's straight across the street, is liable to be fined £5. If you want people to use a subway, make it a magnificent subway. This is the south end of Preston, north end, if you see what I mean. It's the edge of the centre that you'd reach first if you came back from the football ground. And from here, right across the centre, it's possible to do a walk which, every few yards, is punctuated by the great blockbusters of things in Preston fashion. And the newest is only just a few paces away there, Preston Guildhall. Nothing at all wrong with modern architecture, just as bad modern architecture. And this thing isn't going to go out of fashion. The quality of the building, which is so rare in modern architecture, these bricks, they're solid, they're there, the pointing's been carefully done. No one's going to say of this, oh, how shoddy last year's ideas. They'll recognize it was built at a certain time. It was built for 1972, just as you would say the same of a Gothic cathedral was built for 1300 or 1500. And I really am astonished, again, that a town, 100,000 people, this place is smaller than Reading, has got the pride and indeed the money to put up all these buildings and has done for centuries. Because the blockbusters are falling thick and fast around here. Just down the street there, nudging into view, is the Victorian Market Hall, which is not quite a building, in the sense that it's a great big roof with open sides, and it gives a magical effect of inside-outside. You don't know whether you're in a room or in the street. And the roof itself is a grand bit of Victorian ironwork. Directly opposite me here is the Sessions House, which is Edwardian magnificence, early 1900s, and something which I don't quite understand happening on the top floor. If that's a courtroom, I'll eat my hat. And next to it is the real grand slam of them all, the Harris Art Gallery and Museum. This backside is grand enough, but you wait till you see the front. Just look at all that. The British Museum squeezed in and squeezed up, admonitions in Greek and English, and an immense sense of purpose, of self-confidence. This, again, was done by a local man, James Hibbert. And the odd thing is that, although he built a bit around the town, he never really did anything very much. The buildings are ordinary. Yet suddenly, at the end of his life, he pulled this thing out, and pulled it out, in fact, in the style of 60 or 70 years earlier. This is 1890. To go back to the British Museum, looks as though it's about 1820 or 1830. The hell with whether it's late or early in a style, it's just a very great building. And in front of it, the marketplace, a little square, almost Parisian square with the trees there. The same sense of intense concentration. Still with a bit of market. The market's obviously outgrown, as you've seen the market hall there. Then across, and a bit of, not old Preston, but small-scale Preston. One tiny cottage left over, really, from Preston way before 1800, and the rest simple commercial up-and-down stuff. And I'm very happy to see that. Preston is so full of grand gestures that you desperately need this. It is, in fact, dead easy for me as a pedestrian to get to the next link in the grand chain of Preston. Just up there, first right and about second left. But if I started over there with a car, the only way I could do it would be somewhat different.
I wish you all could go away if just for childer's sakes. For if you're home or stop a one, may you all enjoy your wakes.
Traffic management on this scale, for a town the size of Preston, seems to me to be planning gone mad. Why not simply close the streets that have to be closed? Widen the pavement, that's a very easy thing because it both gives pedestrians more room and reduces the traffic on its own. At the moment, the pedestrians are no better off, really. There's just a strange emptiness in the centre. Though, to be fair, the scheme is only halfway through and there will eventually be pedestrian streets. This traffic scheme doesn't seem to be common sense at all. And in the end, what isn't common sense is going to be thrown out. Well, now that the camera and I have finally got here, I got here somewhat earlier, the next place is a Georgian square. It's a Georgian square with a difference, though. You see, the square is a sunken square, and it was a wonderful act of the imagination to do this. Not simply level it out, but keep the roughness of the ground and then plant it. Makes quite different from any other square I know in Britain. You can sort of lose yourself in here, but you've still got the feeling of the houses around. In fact, as I remember the story, I think it was the 1922 Preston Guilds. A couple did that. I mean, they got carried away by emotion, took off all their clothes and started performing to an appreciative audience and had to be separated by constables. The square around was built just about 1800, which was a time when very little was being built in England because of the Napoleonic Wars. But an awful lot was being built in America in the first resurgence after their little local difficulty with us. And the astonishing thing about Winkley Square here in Preston is that it really is like what they call in America the federal style, the thing you can see by the streetful in Boston and a few more of the cities of America. And this is all because of the scale. The scale is much bigger than, again, almost anything else in Britain. I know most of the Georgian squares in Britain, and apart from set pieces, like bits of Bath, bits of Edinburgh, this is the only one that can really match this federal style, really say, right, we're here. It goes right through all the streets around from here. And in a very few yards, you're out into something completely different, a massive Victorian public park. Someone seems to have made a bit of a meal of the balustrade here, but the rest of it is in perfect order. Preston keeps its legacy very well. This is the end of the journey, the end of the chain from the football ground, and it really is Preston Southend. If you took all the centuries, comparing Bolton and Preston, Preston would undoubtedly win. More has happened here. It's had a longer history. It's had more time to accumulate riches in buildings. There's no point in equating them there. In fact, I like them both very much. I think they're both doing a very good job of being themselves. But I think it is fair to try and score on what the 20th century has done, the last 20 years in Bolton and Preston. So to start with Bolton, one goal for the Octagon, for the way it has become such a marvellous meeting place. Another goal for the area around the town centre, where streets have been made pedestrian, but the right streets, and made pedestrian in a way that pedestrians can really use. And a very strong penalty against for what Bolton is just about to do to Saviour Church there. So halfway, if you like, the score is 2-1. Preston, again one goal for the bus station, for its scale, for the town's energy that can put up something like that just as a bus station. Another goal in exactly the same way for Preston Guildhall. Again, the energy, the strength, the willingness to stake a lot of money in the town's future. And alas, an own goal against for the traffic system, where the fullback has just fumbled it between the goalkeeper's legs. So that, adding it all up full time, comes out 3-3, which pleases me very much because I really do like both towns immensely. And what I'm trying to say in the programme is, please go and have a look and see if you like them as well. Don't just hammer up the motorway on the way to the Lake District. Oh, isn't it pretty? Stop off at Bolton and Preston. Don't just go up the main line from London to Glasgow. Stop off at Preston. It's quite easy. The main line runs through this park. It's just over there. Next time, just change trains and have a look.